Hello and welcome back again to our series, Introduction to Programming and Problem Solving. In this fourth lecture, we'll be looking at flowcharts as means of representing algorithms. Okay, so first we mentioned that algorithms are the first stage in solving a problem, being it computer, mathematical, whatever problem it is. Algorithms are the first stages that you take to solve the problem. And then we said that algorithms are step-by-step approaches that we take to solve a bigger problem, okay, or any problem. So a flowchart, on the other hand, is a visual representation of an algorithm which uses symbols, shapes, and then connections to represent operations. So basically, flowcharts is just the use of symbols to represent various steps or processes in an algorithm. So you are saying that flowcharts are used to represent or they provide visual representation of such processes using standardized graphics. Okay, so they are symbols and then they have their meaning. Let's look at a simple example of a flowchart. In our second lecture, we solved a problem. In our first lecture, we solved a problem about a student wanting to obtain a pen. So this is a flowchart to represent that step that we checked out earlier. So we say that an algorithm is supposed to be finite as such, supposed to have a start and then an end. So we start. We are going to look at the meaning of these symbols in our next slide. So start, the student takes funds from parents, leaves the house to cross the street. Decision, is it safe to cross? If yes, student, if no, still stays here. So if yes, crosses the street, enters the shop to request for the pen, chooses the pen, makes payment, then done. Okay, so let's look at the symbols in detail, what they mean in flowcharts. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, flowchart is a graphical representation of series of steps indicating how the steps or how the solutions come together to form a problem. It's commonly used to represent the flow of algorithm, workflows, processes, since it shows steps in a sequential manner. Okay. So flowchart often displays the processes as various types of boxes, arrows, connecting them with each other in the correct order. Okay. So let's look at what these symbols make. So the conventional meaning of various flowchart shapes vary. The following are meaning of some of the frequent shapes that are used. So you have what we call the terminal. The terminal is this shape. People call it oval shape. Yeah. Others also call it ellipse or something. So this shape or this symbol is used to represent the start and the ending point of a system. Okay, the start and the ending point of a system. Okay, that is what we have here. So representing the start or the ending point of a system. The next symbol is the process. The rectangle symbol, let's use to represent a process. Okay, anything. A process is basically action and motion. So this is what we use to represent a process. So here you see that there was a process happening here. The student happened to take funds from the parents, leaving the house, crossing the street, enters the shop, chooses a pen, makes payment. All these are processes. Okay. The next shape is documents. This shape is used to represent a document. Anything that is a document in a flowchart. Anytime you want to symbolize document or a document in a flowchart, you use this shape. Okay. And the next symbol is the decision. So you mostly use the shape that is called the diamond to represent a decision, where lines come inside and then outside of this. Okay, leading to different sub-processes. These lines are basically representing different scenarios, okay, of a case based on certain conditions to be met. We have another symbol that is used to represent data. Okay, this symbol is used to represent data. Anytime you see the symbol in a flowchart, it used to represent a data. Okay, basically an input or an output. Flow. So this symbol is an arrow. An arrow is used to represent the flow of the processes. So we are saying that flowcharts are sequential, means that it moves from one place to the other. So this arrow is used to represent the next step where it moves to. Okay. So let's look at examples of flowcharts. This first example is a flowchart that shows how an undergraduate student or student register for courses in their learning management system portal. Okay. So we said earlier, this is used to represent the start. This is the terminal, is to represent the start or the end. Okay. So here we have a start here. So you start, then comes here. The student is supposed to access the university's website. So this is a process. Okay. Moves to this. The student clicks on the student portal on the website. It's also a process. Now you come here. This is what we call the decision. So here, we said earlier that in solving problems, okay, you must consider different scenarios. So here we are considering whether the student is a regular student or a weekend student. So if the student is a regular student, and there's the ID, if the student is a weekend student, it comes back here to enter their student ID and then password. Okay. So the arrow moves here. Here is the next phase. So if the ID is correct, if the ID is correct, or the password or the details is correct, if yes, you proceed. Or let me put it in other words, is the ID or password incorrect? If no, it means that it's correct. As such, you can proceed on to clicking on the registration button, which this is also a process here. Okay, process. This is a process here. This is also a process. This is also a theta. So if the password is correct, you click on the registration button. Then you follow this to click on, or we select courses that we want to defer or register. And then this is a document. So we print the registration sheet. I'm saying that this is used to represent documents. Okay. Then here there is a process happening here. You submit the printed copy, if to the HOD's office, to the registrar's office, to the administrative offices. Then we end. Here there is another scenario where the student or the ID or the password is incorrect. If it's incorrect, you have to click on select password, which is a process. Enter the index number and the password, or enter the index number so that password recovery procedures are initiated to get the new password set, which is also a process. So if this is done, you come back here, you enter the student's ID again. Then if it's correct, we move on here. If it's not correct, we come back here. Then we proceed till we are done. Okay. So let's look at another example of a flowchart. So in this flowchart, it's showing how clinical cases should be processed at a medical center. Okay. So we are saying that, keep in mind, flowchart is a representation of an algorithm. It's just a visual or graphical representation of an algorithm. So here, this is the terminal. Okay. So we start here. And patient arrives, which is a process. Okay. Then we check. This is a decision. So is the patient registered? If yes, you take it to the available nurse. If no, we register the patient. Okay. Then it comes back here. We check, is the patient registered now? Yes. Then take it to the available nurse. So if there is a nurse available, the nurse is going to take care of the patient, then record health information. Okay. And then from there, the patient would move on to the available doctor. If a nurse is not available, the patient would have to wait for a nurse to come in and attend to them before they get to see the doctor. So if a nurse is available, you come here, the nurse records the health information, then proceeds to booking an appointment with the doctor. If a doctor is available, then we assign the patient to the doctor. If no, you have to wait for a doctor to be available, then we assign the patient to. Okay. So here, we come to this side where, or we come to this part of the system where the patient goes to see the doctor. Is there a need for a follow-up? If yes, book an appointment another day. If no, we come here. Is there a need for medication, or do we have to administer medication or anything? If yes, we give the patient the prescription. If no, the patient leaves. Then come to the end of our terminal. So this is a process. This is a process. This is a process. This is a decision. This is a decision. This is a process. This is a process. This is a decision. Okay. So let's look at other shapes These are some other shapes in flowchart. We just looked at some common ones. These are other shapes and what they mean. So this is the process. Already we know that. This is used to represent the terminal, the session. So here we are seeing something new here. Anytime you want to represent a manual input, use the shape. We already know about this input here. Predefined processes. Anything that's already been predefined, use the shape. Use this to represent databases. This represents manual operations, documents, multi-documents, a delay. Use this to represent that on-page reference. Use this to represent the alternative or an alternate process. Use this to represent that. Okay, so this is used to represent an alternate process. This is used to represent a process. This is used to represent a data. Here, this shape is used to represent measure. This is preparation. This is off-page reference. Okay. So let's come to the last part of our wording representations.